Right now, in this exact second, somewhere on Earth, a piece of plastic just slipped into the ocean. Not in a dramatic moment, not in front of cameras, quietly, invisibly. The way it happens every single second of every single day, every single year, without pause and almost entirely without consequence for the people responsible. By the time you finish watching this video, the ocean will contain tens of thousands of new pieces of plastic that did not exist in it 10 minutes ago. This is not a future crisis we are warning you about. It is happening right now, in this second, and the next one, and the one after that, for as long as you keep watching. Let us start with the number that should genuinely disturb you. Scientists estimate that approximately 11 to 12 million metric tons of plastic enter the world's oceans every single year. Break that down into seconds, and every second, somewhere between 300 and 400 kilograms of plastic enters the ocean. That is the weight of an adult grizzly bear, every second, sliding into rivers, drifting off beaches, falling from cargo ships, washing out of storm drains, entering an ocean that was never designed to absorb anything that does not belong there. The ocean has existed for roughly 4 billion years. Human civilization, in any recognizable form, has existed for perhaps 10,000. Plastic, as a mass-produced material, has existed for less than 100. In that blink of geological time, a fraction of a second on the timeline of this planet, we have altered the chemistry of the largest ecosystem on Earth. Here is what makes this different from almost every other environmental disaster in history. Plastic does not disappear. It breaks. It fragments into smaller and smaller pieces, but it never truly goes away. Sunlight and wave action break plastic down into particles smaller than 5 millimeters, called microplastics. Eventually, those break down further into nanoplastics, particles small enough to pass through cell membranes in living tissue. A single plastic water bottle can take an estimated 450 years to fully break down in the ocean. A plastic bag can take up to 20 years. An abandoned fishing net can persist for 600 years. A polystyrene cup, the kind used once and discarded in seconds, can remain in some form for over 500 years. Think about that timeline. A piece of plastic discarded by someone in the 1950s, during the early years of mass plastic production, is very likely still in the ocean today, in some fragmented form, and will continue existing for centuries after everyone reading this sentence is gone. Every second of plastic that has entered the ocean since mass production began is still there. It has not vanished. It has simply gotten smaller and far harder to remove, and far easier to ignore. So where does this plastic actually come from? The answer surprises most people. Researchers estimate roughly 80% of ocean plastic originates from land, carried to the sea through rivers. A landmark study published in Science Advances found that just 10 rivers, primarily in Asia, are responsible for the majority of riverborne plastic entering the world's oceans. The Yangtze River alone is estimated to carry over 1.5 million tons of plastic into the sea every single year. This is not simply a story of carelessness. Waste management infrastructure in many rapidly industrializing regions has not kept pace with the explosion of plastic consumption that arrived alongside rapid economic growth. Packaging designed for convenience in wealthy export markets ends up as waste in countries that receive the products, but not the infrastructure to dispose of them. The remaining plastic enters through other channels entirely. Fishing fleets lose or deliberately discard nets, ropes, and equipment directly into the sea, a category known as ghost gear, responsible for an estimated 640,000 tons entering the ocean every year. These nets continue trapping and killing marine life for decades after being abandoned, a phenomenon scientists call ghost fishing. Cargo ships lose containers during storms. In 2020 alone, an estimated 3,000 shipping containers were lost at sea, many filled with consumer plastic goods that spilled directly into open water the moment they broke apart. Every second, multiple sources, multiple industries, and multiple continents are feeding the same accumulating catastrophe simultaneously. Where does all of this plastic actually go once it enters the water? Ocean currents do not distribute plastic evenly. Circular systems called gyres act like enormous, slow-moving whirlpools, pulling floating debris toward their centers over years and decades. The most famous is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, located between Hawaii and California, estimated at roughly 1.6 million square kilometers, an area approximately 3 times the size of France. It is not a solid island of trash, as popular imagination often pictures. It is a vast, diffuse soup of fragments, fishing nets, and microplastics suspended throughout the water column, from the surface down to significant depths. Scientists estimate it contains approximately 1.8 trillion individual pieces of plastic. Trillion, not million, not billion. 4 other major gyres exist across the world's oceans in the North Atlantic, South Atlantic, North Pacific, and Indian Ocean, each accumulating its own concentration of waste. Each growing every single second, this crisis continues unaddressed. Here is the part that should change how you think about your own body. Plastic does not stay in the ocean as a distant, abstract problem. It enters the food chain. Microplastics are now found in plankton, the foundational organism of nearly every marine food web on the planet. Small fish consume contaminated plankton. Larger fish consume those smaller fish. Humans consume the larger fish. One widely cited study estimated the average person consumes somewhere between 39,000 and 52,000 microplastic particles every single year through food, water, and air, with some estimates suggesting total exposure, including inhalation, may amount to the equivalent of a credit card's worth of plastic every week. Researchers have now detected microplastics in human blood, lung tissue, placentas, and breast milk. The full long-term health consequences are still being studied, but early research has linked microplastic accumulation to inflammation and potential hormonal disruption. We built a material to make our lives more convenient. It has found its way into our bloodstream. So what is actually being done, and is it enough? Plastic from gyres, like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, removing millions of kilograms since operations began. The European Union introduced sweeping single-use plastic restrictions in 2021. Numerous countries have banned single-use bags, straws, and certain types of packaging entirely. But here is the uncomfortable truth these efforts cannot escape. New plastic continues entering the ocean every second, at a rate that current cleanup technology cannot match. We are bailing water out of a sinking ship with buckets, while a fire hose continues running into it. Global plastic production has not slowed. It has accelerated, increasing nearly 20-fold since 1964, and projections suggest production could double again within the next 20 years if current trends continue unchanged. Every second on Earth, plastic enters the ocean. Every second, that plastic begins a journey that may last centuries before it disappears, if it ever truly does. A creature somewhere mistakes it for food. A current somewhere pulls it toward an accumulation zone larger than entire countries. The ocean did not create this problem. It is simply where we decided to put it. And every second we wait, it decides to keep it.